She. She left me for her boss. After 10 years. But the shocking twist. No one saw coming. A true story of betrayal, heartbreak, and unexpected karma that will leave you speechless. Have you ever had that moment when you realize your entire life has been built on a lie? When everything you thought was real suddenly crumbles like a house of cards. That was me 3 years ago. My name is Michael, and this is the story of how my wife of 10 years left me for her boss, and the absolutely mind-blowing twist that followed. The perfect life, or so I thought. Sarah and I met in college. She was studying business administration. I was pursuing engineering. Our first encounter was in the university library. Classic, I know. I'd been struggling with a paper when she noticed me about to pull my hair out and offered to help. That simple act of kindness turned into coffee, which turned into dinner, which turned into the most incredible 10 years of my life. At least, that's what I thought they were. We got married at 25, bought our first home at 27, and spent the next 8 years building what I believed was our dream life together. I worked as a structural engineer for a reputable firm, while Sarah climbed the corporate ladder at Pinnacle Investments, one of the city's most prestigious financial companies. Everyone envied us. The perfect couple, with the perfect careers, the perfect home, and the perfect marriage. We took luxurious vacations twice a year, hosted legendary dinner parties for our friends, and were even talking about starting a family. I genuinely believed we were happy. God, I was blind. The first cracks. Looking back, I can pinpoint exactly when things began to change, though I didn't recognize it at the time. It was when James Thornton took over as CEO of Pinnacle Investments. Sarah came home that evening with an unusual excitement about her. "He's brilliant, Mike," she gushed. "The way he talks about the future of the company. It's inspiring. He's going to transform Pinnacle." I smiled and nodded, happy to see her passionate about work. She'd always been ambitious, and I supported that completely. When she mentioned that James had personally selected her to lead a new project team, I was proud of her. When she started working late nights and weekends, I understood it was for her career. When she became distant, distracted, and irritable at home, I chalked it up to stress. When our intimacy dwindled, I told myself it was just a phase all long-term couples go through. Just be patient, I told myself. This project will end, and things will go back to normal. But they didn't. The text message that changed everything. It was a Tuesday evening in April. Sarah had texted that she'd be working late again, the third time that week. I decided to surprise her with dinner at her office. I ordered from her favorite Italian restaurant and drove downtown, excited to spend even just half an hour with my wife. I should have called first. When I arrived at Pinnacle's gleaming office tower, the receptionist informed me that most of the staff had left for the day. Confused, I called Sarah's cell. No answer. I texted her, "Hey, I'm downstairs with dinner. Where are you?" 3 minutes later, my phone buzzed. But it wasn't Sarah. It was a notification from our shared cloud account. New photos had been backed up from her phone. I don't know what compelled me to look. We trusted each other completely. I'd never snooped before. But something felt wrong. So I opened the app. And there they were. Photos of Sarah, my Sarah, with James Thornton at what looked like a high-end restaurant I didn't recognize. They weren't work photos. The way they looked at each other, the way his hand rested on hers across the table, the intimate setting with candles and wine, my stomach lurched. As I scrolled in disbelief, my phone buzzed again. A text from Sarah. "Sorry, I'm actually at dinner with the team, celebrating project milestone. We'll be home late. Don't wait up." I stared at the text, then back at the photos. The timestamp showed they'd been taken just 20 minutes ago. I felt physically ill as I drove home, the beautiful dinner I'd bought cooling and forgotten on the passenger seat. The confrontation. I couldn't sleep that night, of course. I sat in our darkened living room, waiting. Sarah came home just after midnight, humming softly as she entered. She stopped short when she saw me. "Mike, why are you sitting in the dark?" I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I turned on the lamp beside me and looked at her. Really looked at her. Her hair was perfectly styled, her makeup immaculate, wearing a dress I'd never seen before. "How was dinner with the team?" I asked quietly. "Oh, she said, setting down her purse. "Exhausting, but good. We're making great progress on the project." "That's interesting," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Because I was at your office tonight, with dinner for you." The color drained from her face. For a moment, neither of us spoke. "Mike, Save it," I interrupted, pulling out my phone. "I saw the photos, Sarah. You and James at dinner tonight. Not with the team, with him." She closed her eyes, swaying slightly on her feet. Then, instead of denying it or apologizing, she did something I never expected. She laughed. It was a strange, hollow sound that chilled me to the bone. "Well," she said, suddenly looking relieved, "I guess that saves me the trouble of having to tell you." "Tell me what?" I asked, though I already knew. "I'm leaving you, Michael. James and we're in love." Ciao. Aftermath. The next few weeks passed in a blur. Sarah moved out the very next day, taking only her personal belongings. "Keep the house," she said magnanimously, as if she were doing me a favor. "I'll be living in James's penthouse downtown." Friends were shocked. Family was devastated. Everyone had questions I couldn't answer. How long had it been going on? How could she throw away 10 years of marriage? What did he have that I didn't? Money, for one thing. James Thornton was worth millions. He was also 15 years older than Sarah, divorced twice, and had a reputation for dating employees. But he was powerful, charismatic, and could offer Sarah not just passion, but a lifestyle I never could. I found myself suddenly alone in the home we had built together, surrounded by memories that now felt tainted. Photos of our vacations, our wedding day, our life together, all of it seemed like elaborate props in a play where I was the only one who didn't know the script. The divorce was quick and clinical. Sarah didn't want alimony. She was making 6 figures now, thanks to a promotion James had given her. She didn't want the house or most of our shared possessions. She just wanted out. "I'm sorry it ended this way," she said at the final signing, "but you have to admit, we were growing apart. James just helped me see what I really wanted." I said nothing. What was there to say? Rock bottom. Depression hit me hard in the months that followed. I went to work, came home, and stared at walls. Friends tried to help, but I pushed them away. My parents suggested therapy, but I wasn't ready to talk about it. I just wanted to disappear. Social media became a special kind of torture. Sarah and James didn't hide their relationship. Quite the opposite. There they were in the Maldives. There they were at a charity gala. There they were at a Michelin-starred restaurant in Paris. She looked happier than I'd ever seen her. 6 months after she left, I received a wedding invitation in the mail. They were getting married at an exclusive resort in Santorini. The invitation included a handwritten note. "I hope you can be happy for me, Mike. What we had was special, but this is where I belong now." I burned the invitation and the note, then got spectacularly drunk. That night, In my darkest moment, I typed out a scathing email to both of them, pouring out all my rage, hurt, and bitterness. I detailed every sacrifice I'd made for our relationship, every dream I'd put on hold so Sarah could pursue hers. I called them both every terrible name I could think of. I threatened to send evidence of their affair to the company board. My finger hovered over the send button for what felt like hours. Then I deleted it. That was my turning point. I realized that sending that email wouldn't hurt them. It would only reveal how broken I still was. And I didn't want to be broken anymore. The rebuilding the next day, I called a therapist. Then I called my friends and family to apologize for shutting them out. I joined a gym, started hiking on weekends, and rediscovered my love for playing guitar. I signed up for cooking classes and found I had a knack for it. Slowly, painfully, I began to rebuild my life. Not the life I'd planned with Sarah, but something entirely new. Something that was mine alone. I took a sabbatical from work and spent 3 months backpacking through South America. Something Sarah had always dismissed as too rustic. I learned basic Spanish, made friends from around the world, and for the first time in months, I felt alive again. When I returned, I was offered a partnership at my firm, which came with a substantial raise and the freedom to choose my own projects. I sold the house, too many memories, and bought a modern loft downtown with floor-to-ceiling windows and an incredible view of the city. A year after Sarah left, I realized I hadn't thought about her in weeks. I was healing. The unexpected email. 18 months after our divorce, I received an email from a name I didn't recognize. Elena Vasquez. The subject line read, "Information about James Thornton and Pinnacle Investments." My first instinct was to delete it. I wanted nothing to do with James or Pinnacle or anything connected to that part of my life. But curiosity got the better of me. "Dear Mr. Reynolds," it began, "you don't know me, but I'm a senior accountant at Pinnacle Investments. I've been following the unusual activity in our books for the past year, and I believe James Thornton is involved in serious financial impropriety. Before I take this to the authorities, I'd like to speak with you, as you may have relevant information. Please call me if you're willing to discuss this matter." I stared at the screen, my mind racing. Part of me, the petty, vengeful part I wasn't proud of, felt a surge of satisfaction, but the larger part just felt tired. Did I really want to get involved in whatever this was? After mulling it over for a day, I called Elena. We agreed to meet at a quiet coffee shop far from the financial district. The revelation. Elena was in her 50s, with shrewd eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. "I believe James Thornton is embezzling from Pinnacle Investments," she said bluntly. "And I think your ex-wife is involved." She opened a folder and spread several documents across the table. Financial statements, transaction records, emails. As she explained the patterns she'd discovered, my engineering mind followed the logic easily. Money was being siphoned from client accounts into offshore entities through a complex series of transactions. "Why come to me?" I asked. "I have nothing to do with Pinnacle." "Because of this," she said, sliding a final document toward me. It was an authorization for a wire transfer of $5 million to a shell company in the Cayman Islands. The authorization required 2 signatures, James Thornton's and Sarah's. "That's not all," Elena continued. "I've been watching them for months. This isn't just about the money. James has done this before at his previous companies. He finds a talented woman, grooms her professionally and personally, uses her to help him embezzle funds, and then, when things get too hot, he sets her up to take the fall while he walks away clean." I felt a cold dread settling in my stomach. Are you saying he's using Sarah? Elena nodded grimly. She's the perfect scapegoat. Young, ambitious, romantically involved with him. When this all comes crashing down, everyone will believe she was the mastermind trying to frame the respected CEO. Have you told her? Would she believe me? Or would she run straight to him? Elena shook her head. That's why I came to you. You might be the only person who could get through to her. I laughed bitterly. I'm the last person Sarah would listen to. Maybe, Elena conceded. But you're also the only person who loved her without wanting something from her. I sat back, conflicted. Sarah had betrayed me, humiliated me, discarded me. Why should I care if she was walking into a trap? But despite everything, I couldn't just do nothing. The warning. Getting Sarah to meet me was surprisingly easy. I sent a simple email. Need to talk about Pinnacle. Important. Not about us. We met at a small park near her new home. She looked different. Designer clothes, expensive jewelry, hair and makeup immaculate. But underneath the polished exterior, she seemed tense, tired. What's this about, Michael? She asked, keeping her distance. Without preamble, I told her everything Elena had shared with me, showing her copies of the documents. As I spoke, I watched her face carefully. I expected denial, anger, dismissal. Instead, I saw fear. You knew, I realized suddenly. You already knew something was wrong. Sarah's composure cracked. She sank onto a bench, hands trembling. I didn't know at first, she whispered. By the time I realized what was happening, I was in too deep. He has evidence that makes it look like everything was my idea. He's not who I thought he was, Mike. You need to go to the authorities, I said, before this gets worse. She laughed hollowly. And say what? That I was tricked? That I didn't know what I was signing? I have an MBA, Michael. No one will believe I didn't understand what was happening. So what's your plan? Wait until he frames you completely? Sarah looked away. I've been gathering evidence of my own. Recordings, documents, I just need a little more time. You may not have time, I warned. Elena is planning to go to the SEC next week. Sarah's head snapped up. Who's Elena? I told her about the accountant who had contacted me. As I spoke, Sarah's expression changed from fear to calculation. This changes everything, she said, standing abruptly. I need to move faster. Sarah, thank you for telling me, Michael. I know you didn't have to. She hesitated, then added softly, I'm sorry for everything. You deserved better. Before I could respond, she turned and walked away. It was the last time I would see her in person for nearly a year. The sting 1 week later, the financial world was rocked by a massive scandal. The FBI raided Pinnacle Investments, led there by an anonymous whistleblower who had provided extensive evidence of a sophisticated embezzlement scheme orchestrated by CEO James Thornton. The evidence was overwhelming. Recorded conversations, doctored financial statements, emails, and offshore account details. James was arrested while attempting to board a private plane to a non-extradition country. Alone. Sarah, it turned out, had been working with the FBI for months. She hadn't been James's unwitting accomplice. She had been gathering evidence against him from the moment she realized what he was doing. The press had a field day. The story had everything: money, betrayal, romance, and justice. Sarah was hailed as a hero, the insider who sacrificed everything to bring down a criminal. She gave a single interview to a major financial publication, explaining how she had discovered James's scheme and made the difficult decision to continue her relationship with him while building a case. "I knew no one would believe me without concrete evidence," she explained. "I had to get close enough to access the information authorities would need." She didn't mention me or Elena. As far as the public knew, Sarah Reynolds had single-handedly exposed one of the biggest financial frauds of the decade. I watched it all unfold from a distance, conflicted about how I felt. Part of me was proud of her courage. Another part wondered how much of her story was true. Had she really been working against James all along? Or had she turned on him only when she realized he planned to betray her? I would never know for certain. The letter. 3 months after James Thornton's arrest, I received a thick envelope in the mail. Inside was a letter and a check for an amount that made my hands shake. "Dear Michael," the letter began, "by now you know the truth, or at least the public version of it. The reality is more complicated. I never planned to fall in love with James, but once I did, I was blind to who he really was. When I finally saw the truth, I was already implicated in his crimes. My choice was clear: go down with him or find a way out. The FBI offered me immunity in exchange for my testimony. The money enclosed is my way of making amends. It's my entire share of the reward for information leading to recovery of the stolen funds. I know it doesn't erase what I did to you, but I hope it helps you build the life you always deserved." I didn't tell the FBI about Elena. As far as they know, I discovered the fraud independently. Please, let her know I'm grateful for her courage. I'm leaving the country once the trial is over. I've been offered a position overseas, a fresh start. I won't contact you again. I wish you happiness, Michael. I'm sorry I couldn't be the person you thought I was. Sarah. I never cashed the check. Instead, I donated the entire amount to a non-profit that helps victims of financial fraud, in Elena's name. She later joined their board of directors, the twist no one saw coming. A year passed. James Thornton was sentenced to 30 years in federal prison. Sarah testified against him and then disappeared from public view, presumably to take that job overseas. I continued building my new life. I made partner at my firm. I traveled. I dated occasionally, though nothing serious. I was content, if not completely happy. Then came the day that changed everything again. I was having lunch with a client when my phone buzzed with a news alert. Breaking. Sarah Reynolds, whistleblower in Pinnacle investment scandal, revealed as FBI agent in decade-long undercover operation. I nearly dropped my phone. Excusing myself from the table, I frantically searched for more information. The story was extraordinary. Sarah, her real name was Special Agent Cassandra Morales, had been working undercover for the FBI's white-collar crime division for more than 10 years. Her entire career at Pinnacle, her rise through the company, had all been part of a massive operation to take down not just James Thornton, but an entire network of financial criminals. Our marriage had been part of her cover. I sat in stunned silence as I read article after article. According to the reports, the operation had finally concluded with the arrest of James's international partners, allowing Cassandra's real identity to be revealed. A statement from the FBI director praised her extraordinary sacrifice and dedication, noting that she had maintained her cover for years, including creating a convincing personal life that lent credibility to her professional persona. That convincing personal life was our marriage, our home, our love, our life together. It had all been a lie. The final meeting, 2 days later, I received a call from an unknown number. "Michael, it's me. We need to talk." I recognized her voice immediately. though it had a different quality now, more authoritative, less vulnerable. We met at the same park where we'd had our last conversation. She looked different. Her hair was shorter, her posture more confident. She wasn't wearing designer clothes anymore, just jeans and a simple blouse. "I don't even know what to call you," I said when she sat down beside me. "Cassandra is my real name," she said. "But I've been Sarah for so long that sometimes I forget which one is me." "Was any of it real?" I asked, the question that had been burning inside me. She looked out across the park, silent for a long moment. "That's why I needed to see you," she finally said. "I couldn't let you think it was all fake. My job was real. My assignment was real. But what I felt for you—" She turned to face me. "That was real too, Michael." "You left me," I said flatly. "I had no choice. We'd been tracking James for years before I was assigned to Pinnacle. When he took over as CEO and started showing interest in me, my handlers saw it as our chance to get evidence against him. They ordered me to get close to him." She closed her eyes. "I fought it. I argued that we could find another way. But in the end, I had to follow orders or risk blowing an operation that had been in progress for years. So leaving me for him was just following orders?" "The hardest orders I've ever followed," she said quietly. "I had to make it convincing. I had to make you hate me so you wouldn't look for me, wouldn't question the story." I laughed bitterly. "Well, you succeeded there. I know apologizing is pointless after everything, but I am sorry, Michael. Sorry that I couldn't tell you the truth. Sorry that I hurt you. You deserved a real marriage, not whatever we had." "And what exactly did we have?" I had asked. "10 years of me breaking the most important rule of undercover work," she said simply. "Don't fall in love." We sat in silence for a long time after that. I had 1,000 questions, but I wasn't sure I wanted the answers. Finally, she stood. "I'm being reassigned. Overseas this time, for real. I wanted to see you before I left, to tell you the truth, even if you can't forgive me." She placed a small box on the bench between us. "This belongs to you." Inside was her wedding ring, the one I'd thought she'd discarded when she left. There was a small note with it. The only real thing I owned. Before I could respond, she leaned down and kissed my cheek. "Goodbye, Michael. Be happy. You deserve it." I watched her walk away, a stranger I had loved for 10 years. The aftermath, again. That was 2 years ago. I'd like to say I've made peace with it all, but the truth is more complicated. How do you reconcile a decade of your life that was simultaneously real and false? How do you trust again after learning that the person who knew you best was living a double life? I've had a lot of therapy. I've dated a bit. I've thrown myself into work and travel. Life goes on, as they say. Sometimes I see news reports about financial crime busts and wonder if she's involved. Sometimes I wake up from dreams where our life together was exactly what I thought it was. Simple, honest, true. James Thornton is still in prison. Elena Vasquez now runs the nonprofit I donated to, which has helped hundreds of fraud victims. And me? I'm learning to live with unanswered questions. As for Cassandra, Sarah, I received a postcard last month from an unidentified foreign country. No message, just a picture of a library with a single line written on the back. Where it all began. Despite everything, I smiled when I saw it. Some people say that true love is about accepting someone completely. Their past, their secrets, their contradictions. I don't know if what Sarah and I had was true love, or an elaborate deception with moments of truth woven through it? Perhaps it was both. What I do know is this: 10 years of my life were spent with someone who wasn't who she claimed to be. And yet, in those 10 years, I became exactly who I was meant to be. That's the twist no one saw coming. Least of all, me. The end. This story is fictional and created for entertainment purposes only. Any resemblance to real people or events is coincidental.